So the basics of the rep role. Here are your students. These are your classmates, people on your course. So what you're there to do is you're there to listen to them, to collect up their thoughts, their suggestions, any problems that they're having, and condense them all together around the class. It's not just about problems and issues, I kind of say this throughout the presentation. It's also about things that people have enjoyed. We need to feed that back to the programme leaders and say this bit was really good. It's also about ideas that your classmates might have to help improve things, as saying someone had this great idea, why don't we do things in a different way? So it's not all just moaning, it is collecting up some positive information as well. So you're the programme rep, you bring all of that together and then you send it out to a whole different range of people across the university community and outside. So the formal structure would be the Student Staff Liaison Committee. That's where you meet up with your programme leaders and academics, and it's a kind of formal meeting. And you're going to kind of be invited to a few of those each term. But you might also have to speak to other university departments and other university services. So it might be things like the IT service, the library service, that kind of thing. You're going to interact with them as well, passing on information from the students. You will hopefully come and speak to us all the time. We will be in touch, and we are here to kind of help you in your role, but also we gather up any of the loose threads that have fallen through the gaps and we can turn those into campaigns for the student. If there's something that's affecting everybody or everybody on one campus, then ENSA can start to try and work at higher levels in the university with the university management team to say, look, this really is a big issue, let's get this changed. Also, part of your role is that you have to let students know that there are external services that they might want to go and seek help from. Sometimes people might come to you with sort of personal issues, and it might come up in conversation that you find out that someone would really need some help with something. So you're there to say, rather than I'm going to help you fix that, it's here's some information about where you can go to get help and who can professionally support you. So that's kind of the classic basis of the role, is you're there to get the information from the students, bring it all together, and then feed it to a bunch of different departments. But I think it's really important to say you're also there to make sure that the information flows in the other direction. So if you go to a student staff liaison committee and you find out something from the programme leader about there's going to be a change next term in the programme, then it's kind of your job to make sure that you have a way to tell the students that, is to say, I can feed back the information that we've got from academics. Or if you go to university services and you say there's not enough books for our course in the library, and they say those books would cost £10,000 to get enough, and unfortunately we don't have the budget. It's kind of your responsibility to let the students know, actually it's a budgetary issue, it is incredibly expensive. So you're there to make sure the information flows in both directions. So I thought we would move on to kind of some of the stuff that you might have to deal with, some of the bits that sit in the middle of there. And I've divided it up into kind of 4 rough sections. They're not set, I just thought it was an easy way to think about things. So there's academic issues, that's all the stuff with your course, any teaching, assessment, feedback, the course content, whether that is, it's really good, and we want to let you know that, or these are some things that we need improved and this is how we think we can do it. So that kind of information, that would go to your student staff liaison committee. But you might also get, students asking information about facilities and saying, this classroom is always cold. We get that quite a lot. These classrooms are always freezing, or, I can't hear the lecturer when they stand up and talk. So they're like facilities issues. Programme leaders don't have that much control over it. I would definitely mention it to them and they will put pressure on from their side, but you can also try and speak to the appropriate university department. So if it's a technology issue, you could speak to the information services department and say, look, that's really needing repaired. Is there anything we can do about it? We will always get comments about the other facilities on campus. So it's things like the canteens, the toilets, that sort of thing. Obviously that's your academics, programme leaders, have nothing to do with that at all. So where do you take that? You can take it to the university, or you can bring it to ENSA and let us know, and we can start to try and make a wider campaign about it. As I've mentioned, you'll sometimes get personal issues, which I've kind of defined there as things that would affect just a single student. It could be that they're experiencing stress, or they're having a difficult time at home or in their family life. What we say to those about those is, you really don't want to try and take that on and deal with that yourself. It can be incredibly emotionally draining to take on other people's problems, and it's going to distract you from what you're at uni to do, which is study and get a good qualification. So your rep role is not there to be personal support for people, but what you can do is you can point them in the right direction. NSA Advice is a free, confidential, fully professional service that we offer as the Students' Association, and we've got professionally trained advisors, and they know exactly what they're doing and how they can help people. And if someone really is having a very hard time, they can get them onto the right services, whether that's counselling, that kind of thing. And also there are other external services who are the experts in this. If someone tells you something, then you can say, I can't take that on, but I can tell you who to go to for help. So we're trying to say in that one is, you need to protect yourself first. You're not there as the agony aunt for the whole class. You can give them information, but you have to make sure that it's not draining you. And then finally, really just to make it four, I put a social one at the end, to say there is a whole social aspect to university that might come up in your role as a rep. It could be things like people asking you, oh, I'm really interested in this sport, do you know how I can do it at university? Team Napier is here with the sports, or I want to get involved with drama, I love to be on the stage. Team Napier has a whole bunch of societies that people can get involved in. But we can also maybe help you put together some socials and get-togethers. We can definitely give you the benefit of our experience of, if people say we want to have a class event or we want to do this kind of get-together activity, we can let you know venues, we have connections, we can help you with that. So I thought I would talk a little bit about how do you make the most out of the time that you can put into being a rep, and how do you make it most effective. So Stephen Covey was an author and a pop psychologist who wrote a book called The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. So he studied lots of people who had done very well in business and in science and all of these different disciplines, and boiled that down to 7 habits that they have. It's a really interesting book. If you're interested, I would recommend reading it. But he came up with this idea of COVEYS circles. So he said the outer circle, the outermost circle, is everything that you are concerned about in your life, everything that occupies a bit of space inside your head. These can range from some really, personal concerns. Yeah, am I studying enough? Is that going to be enough to get me through the year? Is my relationship a good relationship? Up to things that are just totally ridiculous, that take up a little bit of space in your head, like, are we going to be hit by an asteroid today, or that kind of thing, which is in my head all the time. And he said the outermost circle, you really have areas where you can make a change and areas where you can't make a change. So in the outer circle, you have no real impact at all. You've got no way to influence whether a meteorite is going to fall out of the sky. And there's a whole bunch of things like that people spend their time thinking about, but actually they have no way of changing or making a difference. What he then says is you have an inner circle of influence. So you can try to make some changes in that. And he says why would you concentrate on the stuff that you have no impact on whatsoever, and just bring that circle down and say, I'm only going to spend my time thinking about the stuff that I have a hope, at least, of changing. That's not the only circle. There's an even further inner circle, which he calls the circle of control, and says the things that you do actually have control of are very small, and most of the stuff that you achieve in life is by influencing and interacting with others. The things that you can control really are the ways that you choose to react to a situation and the decisions that you make. That's about the only things you have real practical control over. And so his idea is that you use the way that you react and interact and the decisions that you make to make the best of your influence, to make the biggest difference that you can, and then the rest of it you just forget about. So you really concentrate your efforts, and I thought that was maybe quite useful of thinking about making those little wins that people say. As a rep, you're not necessarily trying to change the whole university. It's about what are the things that we can actually change and that are going to make a real difference to people in my class. I also thought, you guys are going to be interacting with a lot of people. You're going to be talking to your classmates, you're going to be talking to lecturers, senior academics, coming speaking to ENSA. And for me, one of the most important things about effective communication is like really trying to understand other people. Because you're working with such a wide range of people, they're going to have a whole range of ways that they prefer to communicate. So you might think about, I'll just set up a class Facebook group, and that's how we'll communicate, and people can let me know problems. But there's probably people out in your class that really don't like communicating on Facebook. My girlfriend is severely dyslexic, and when she was at university, it was a required part of her course that she had to post into pretty much the equivalent of a Facebook chat group. And she hated it. She really absolutely hated it and said, it's so unfair. I can't keep up with the conversation. People are just typing away. It takes me twice as long to get that done. So you have to be aware that people want to communicate differently. Some people will want to come and speak to you. Some people will want to email you. Some people will want to join a Facebook group. And the idea there is just being open to all of that and saying, not how do I want to communicate, but how do people want to communicate with me, and I'll try and make it as easy as possible for them. I thought I would also mention the I Am Also badges, that we are lucky today that people have them on display, but in the real world people don't have these on display, and you have no way of knowing what the background that someone is coming from, or the things that they are interested in or that they are concerned about. And so someone might come to you with an issue and you might think, that sounds absolutely ridiculous. Why are they asking me for that information? Or why do they want it changed in that way? And it's probably something to do with stuff you don't know that's going on in the background. So it's this idea of, making sure that you're open to other people. If they're making suggestions, don't judge them on it. Just take those suggestions and see what you can do with them. And people's behaviour really changes from day to day. It is quite unbelievable how grumpy I can be on some days, depending what has happened on the way into work. And it was something to say, you have to be open to that. You have to acknowledge people's emotions. You have to say, folk will be in a bad mood one day. I might go and see my programme leader, and they're great, and we're going to change everything. The next time you go and see them, they just dismiss you and they're really grumpy. You have to allow that to happen, and you have to understand there are probably reasons for it, and it can't affect me. I have to just do my best to get through it. So kind of on that note, I thought I would mention some psychology. I'll whiz through it really quickly. There is a lot more in it if you're interested. Please do read into it. But it's called transactional analysis, and it was in the kind of 40s or 50s, I think. This guy, Eric Berne, came up with this idea. What he says is there are sort of 3 ego states that people can be in. And these are really a kind of psychological perspective that they have that influences their behaviour. So if they're thinking in a particular way, they'll act in a particular way. He said that the way that you view ego states are formed in childhood, and they're the result of experiences that you've had as a child. And the way that you act and behave in different ego states is probably set fully by the time that you're 7. People inhabit these states all of the time, and they don't generally know what state they're in. They don't know that they're changing states, and they don't actively think about it as, how am I acting, and how can I change the way that I'm acting? One of the things I find fascinating about it, and you will know it in yourself, is that you can be triggered by interactions with other people to behave in a different ego state. So you can suddenly meet someone and you're like, why is it that I'm just always angry around them? And just that person just makes me change. That's not who I am. And it's because the way that these ego states interact cause changes in other people as well. So if you act in a particular way, someone will respond in a particular way. So to tell you a little bit about them, he calls them the parent state, the adult state, and the child state. The parent and child states can sometimes be helpful, but more often than not, they're actually unhelpful in a situation. They don't really get the best solution out of it, and they don't create a sort of two-way understanding and dialogue. So what he refers to as parent states are generally things that people have picked up from their parents when they were wee, how they think parents should act. And that means that they can be nurturing, but they can also be smothering or overprotective, or they can be kind of controlling and dominating and saying, don't do that, this is how you do it. Child states are kind of just falling back into the way that you acted as a child and you received positive attention. And so you can either become really compliant and unassertive, yes, I'll just do that, and your head goes down, or you become really rebellious and disruptive, and you know people like that they just walk into something and they think, I can't be bothered with this, I'm going to be the joker in the room and I'm going to try and throw everything off. And also people who are in a kind of child state are really prone to tantrums. They just throw a tantrum for no reason. So people are in these states all the time, and there's nothing essentially bad about them. But what Eric Berne says is you're not going to get the most effective interaction with someone if you're not in the right state. What the right state, he says, is he calls the adult state. I'm not a big fan of the way he's named them, but that is how he's named them. And he says that being in the adult state, you are truly acting appropriately to the situation. You're level-headed, you're responsive, you're respectful, you're actively listening, you're solution-focused. You're not thinking about what must be done, what should be done. You're trying to get this consensus agreement with someone else. And he says, by definition, behaving as an adult is always helpful and positive. And it's the way that if you interact with people, thinking of yourself, I need to stay in this state, I can't be pulled off into a different state, I can't be pushed to do something else, I have to maintain this, then you're really going to get the best interactions out of it. What he also says is if you can maintain an adult state, if someone else is in a different ego state, you can pull them through into adult by just continuing to act in that way. And you can see it in people of if someone's being really childish and you just don't let it get to you, you don't end up being pushed into, I have to be the parent here now. If you just stay level-headed, they kind of get bored and they go, okay, I'll meet you, I'll become an adult as well. So it really works, and it kind of gives you that idea of thinking about someone else is probably in a different state from me, how do I interact with them, how do I stay on a level to get the best out of it for the afternoon for a workshop. But I think a really important question is what can you guys do to help each other? We've had a few suggestions there about a space where you can talk to each other, people sharing best practice. We're going to set up the Facebook group. So the first step I would say is get in there and use that, and we can look at other ways that you can come together in person and chat about it. And it's really this idea of peer support. You're all there, you're trying to do the same things, so get in and help each other. You might want to post, I've had a really annoying SSLC, and someone might come back and say, here's an awesome song that will get you back on track. Let's keep going. So I think the peer support can really help. And trying to build a community around you guys. You're all spread out geographically across the campuses, doing different subjects in at different times and stuff. So it's really hard for you guys to feel like a community. And I think if we can just put in a little bit of effort all together to say, let's pull that together, let's make opportunities for people to interact, then we can make it a much better role for you all. So